morning, good afternoon, wherever you're at. Ryan here, setthepacetriathlon.com. And we're going to be talking about 70.3 Des Moines, kicking off your training. Did post last week just talking about kind of general plans for off-season race-specific plans that I've got in Training Peaks that you could use if you want to follow along with where I'm going at in this journey. I did post in the Facebook group where you're at in your fitness level, and the majority, it was kind of a close tie between beginner and intermediate, but went with the intermediate, a little bit few, a couple more people in there than the beginner group, but intermediate is somewhat applicable to beginner as well. Those plans are just a little bit different, but it's assuming maybe you're a little less further along in your distances you're able to do right off the bat. It's not the end of the world. You can definitely do a beginner off-season plan and be just fine out there. But I wanted to jump into where should you be at in your training. So we got 70.3 Des Moines, June 8th, 2025. Time of this recording, we're in the middle of August 2024. You're thinking, man, this seems like a ways out to be thinking about this race, but you definitely don't want to fall off the end, especially if you want to perform better. Maybe you did this race in the past or did another half in the past. You want to perform a little bit better at this race, or you just got some other goals that you want to achieve other than just maybe just finishing and crossing the finish line. And still, even if you're like a beginner and maybe this is your first 70.3, you've done a few sprint races, you want to move up to the distance, it's also a pretty good idea to get some good base going right before the holidays, because as we all know, the holidays are a little bit distracting. It's hard to keep up with the training plan, and rightly so. There's other priorities at that point in time. But then you come back in January, so you got January, February, March, April. So you got 4 solid months. But if you're starting from kind of a basic scratch level, getting up to 7.3 distance, and Des Moines is not super challenging. The swim's in a lake, so it's not really, there's no current, there's no waves other than the sun in your face at a point in time. The bike course is a little bit, it'll keep you honest. They call it rolling hills, but there's some elevation gains on there and some climbs. But overall, it's not undoable. Definitely not something extreme. And then the run course is fairly flat, but at this time of year, I mean, they say the average air temperature is 71. Usually, I've done it when it's either been like 90 degrees at the heat index or 100 degrees for the full when I had the full. Last year was probably low 80s once I got onto the run course. So just keep in mind, it is a little bit warm, so the challenge may not necessarily be the technicality of the course. It may be the weather conditions. You definitely want to make sure you're trained up for that. So with that, we're going to jump into it. I'm just going to talk about kind of where you should be at in your training. So if we're looking at 70.3 Des Moines at this point in time, we're about 41 weeks out. And people are thinking, oh man, that's a long ways out. But man, race day will be here before you know it. Like I said, we got 3 kids. You slam through the holidays and school's already started. It just goes lightning speed, and before you know it, it's race day and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't get enough training in. So definitely don't get caught behind the 8 ball. And I'll put a little thing in here real quick. I've got the comments pulled up, so I'm doing this live on Facebook. If you got any comments, put them in there. If you see this video later, you can comment on the video, either Facebook, YouTube. I post them on both. And then I'll answer your questions and get back to those. But if you got anything live, or if you got anything in the group you want me to address, maybe do this weekly, bi-weekly. We'll see how it goes. See if you got any questions you want me to address as we're going along. And I'll definitely try to focus on that if you guys want to talk about that. But I want to focus on your training, where you should be at, because I want to make sure that we keep on task, on focus. I know there's a lot of things, for most people that are not professional athletes out there, so this is not your main thing. You got work, you got kids, you got family, you got friends, you got all kinds of other things that you got going on. And you add on training for a 7.3 triathlon. It's a little bit much, but we try to break it down into small, digestible chunks so you can get through it. So 41 weeks away, definitely a good time to start into the off-season program. Mine are 20 weeks, so I've got a 20-week off-season program, intermediate level, and I've got a 20-week, and I'm just showing you the intermediate plan. I show you this because the start of the intermediate race-specific plan is a little bit dialed back from where you'll end up in the off-season program, but that's kind of good. Got that fitness up, take a little bit of a breather, take a little bit of breath, a couple weeks of lower volume to let that fitness really gain in from the off-season program, and then move into your race-specific training. But what's nice about the off-season program is I kind of do some people might call it a reverse periodization, where my focus on the off season is smaller workouts but higher intensity. So we're really working on that FTP. We're really working on the threshold for the heart rate. We're trying to get all that stuff kind of gains in fitness, but not necessarily over distance. So we're really focusing on the specific fitness of your workouts. What you got here in week 1 for the intermediate plan is you really can't tell where you're at if you don't know where your fitness is at. And I definitely like numbers. I'm a numbers guy. Like to do the testing, and just so you have a baseline of where you're at. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing out there. You're kind of fumbling with your FTP settings and your bike programs, and you're fumbling with your threshold rates in your run programs. It's just kind of hard to keep track without some sort of target to know where you're at, specifically in your training. So I like to throw these assessments out here, especially in the off-season program. Probably test every 3 to 4 weeks. So that way, when you get the race-specific programming, you're not necessarily worried about testing the fitness as much as stretching that fitness over lengths of time. So definitely off-season program. First week in the intermediate plan is going to be your test week. I think it moves into maybe a couple weeks here. Good baseline, like I said. Get that bike test in, swim test, and run test. The bike test, if you open up in my plans, it has a specific, it's got a structured workout that you can download and run on your trainer. You can download it and upload it to Ruby, to Zwift, any other programs you got out there, Trainer Road, anything. You can upload a fit file or ERD file. It'll run on your program. A lot of these other platforms also have testing programs as well, or a testing workout. So you can do one of theirs. The main thing is to get your FTP out of here so you can update your zones. And in those activities, I've got, here's your fitness test, and then here's to put your zones in the Garmin. And if you just want to see the details, it has it written out for the structured workout. The swim's a little bit different. Right now, at the current point in time, I don't have my swims structured, but you can pull up a PDF of the swim test, and you can go in there and do that. Basically, it's a 200-meter, 200-yard time trial. And that's what you want to do for the entirety of your workout program. You don't want to be changing distances because it just kind of sometimes it gets a little apples to oranges kind of comparisons. And then you got your run test. So you pull this up. It's the same idea as the bike test. You're going to go through and you're going to get warmed up. You're going to do your stretches. You're going to do a little easy run, a little recovery, and then for 1.5 miles, you're going to run as hard as you can. So it doesn't matter how fast or slow you do it, but that is your litmus test of where your fitness is at and where you get your threshold for your run. So that run threshold and then the bike FTP will go into the calculations of your zones. Like I said, there's links in there how to update your zones in Garmin, Training Peaks. And make sure that future workouts, when these workouts upload to your Garmin, to Ruby, to Zwift, to whatever, it goes by your current zones, because you make sure the Garmin, make sure Training Peaks, make sure everything's synced up after you do these fitness tests. I've also got, if you have not seen, I posted several times, maybe I'll post a link if somebody wants a copy of it. I've got a spreadsheet where it keeps track of your zones over time. It has a nice little graph to kind of see. I've got athletes, I've been doing this for like 8-10 years, so we've got 8 or 10 years of data going on. So definitely track where you're at in your testing to make sure that you're keeping an accurate count of either gaining fitness, losing fitness. If you're losing fitness, you go back and you're like, am I being honest? Am I getting in my workouts? Am I not? Are you getting all your workouts in and you're not gaining fitness? Are you doing adequate recovery? Are you trying to burn the candle both ends, doing a little bit too much? Because again, you know, the off season, we have a lot of things going on. You want to make sure that you get those things done in life. And then the training kind of hopefully adds on and enhances life a little bit instead of causing anxiety and issues trying to get it all done. So that's kind of where you need to be at, you know, looking at where we're at. About 41 weeks out from Des Moines 70.3, so the first kind of week of your off-season program. You definitely want to set your baselines for your fitness levels, run, swim, bike. Find out where they're at, make sure everything's synced up as far as those threshold zones, and then you're off and running, literally, or biking, doing your workouts, getting ready for the off-season and gaining fitness over time. So again, just doing some weekly, bi-weekly posting, kind of where you should be at in your training to make sure that we all stay on track, especially going into this off-season. It's hard to get, or it's easy to get distracted being like, oh, it's August, you know, the kids go back to school and I'm trying to get work done and everything, and we get through the holidays. Then I'll focus on training. Don't let it slide until January, because it's definitely harder to jump back on that horse from ground zero, getting up and getting up to speed quickly. You don't want you want to lessen that learning curve going from your baseline fitness to getting ready for race day. You want that difference in those two to definitely be as little as possible. So with that, we're going to end the video. Hopefully this helped you out. Give me comments, thumbs up, likes, all that kind of fun stuff. If this is helping you out, if you got any questions, put them in the comments. I'll get back to them. And with that, we'll see you in the next video. Happy training out there.